Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path. Welcome to the final instalment from our January high country trip. So we've just headed off from the Morning Star or Morning Glory hut, heading back out on the Burgoyne's track on the east side back to Licola Road. And our plan for today, now I haven't put a map up because it's pretty straightforward. If you've got a map of the area, you know the area, it's easy enough to follow. Basically, we're heading back out to Licola Road, back up to Licola, and then from there we're going to follow the main road, which at that point I believe is the Tamboritha Rd, and then continue following it where it changes over to Moroka Rd, where even though the weather today's maybe not looking that great, down low here it's pretty good. We're going to head up to Mt Wellington and check it out. Now this section of track just here, there were some wombat holes there, but I don't think that was the section with the big wombat holes. So yesterday when we were coming in, the guys in the Hilux we ran into did let us know there had been a recent rollover here, and this is the section. Two massive big wombat holes on the track. You can see them approaching this direction now. I've tried to span those there. I've still managed to drop a wheel in there, so did get a bit of wheel loss. Traction control's kind of done its thing for me, and you can see the back wheel there's dropped in, and I've had a fairly decent wheel lift. So looking down the hill there, we could see some vehicle parts where somebody's had a really bad day. So this is that same section of track. Some footage here from Luca's vehicle. You can see Matt's Prado ahead.
It wasn't pretty, but I got through it.
Yeah, I was surprised you took that line, but it worked.
Yeah, you got there.
So Matt's elected to go hard left, which has worked pretty well for him. And Luca's taken a similar line to me, but done a better job of it.
Better spanning that big hole rather than trying to go beside it.
Yeah, I hugged the very side towards the edge of the cliff.
So, yeah, look, take him slow and steady, and you come through them generally okay. So from here, headed down the track there to the right. So that's the Green Hills track, straight ahead there. Just went off the left of frame. That's the one that I broke the CV on last time I was in this area, and ended up in two-wheel drive, and then the battery wasn't charging, and yeah, so it went. So heading back across the Macallister River here. Nice clear water, as you can see. Big rock there that's just gone under the front of the Pajero. Now, I didn't hit it with my 2-inch lift, but if you don't have a lift, there's every chance that rock could be a bit of an issue for you. So definitely something to keep an eye out for if you're driving this track. You just want to swing out in a little bit of an arc there on the northern side. So, of course, as you'd remember from our last video, once we're across the McAllister and heading back up to Licola Road, there are some pretty steady climbs, particularly in this initial section from the river up. It's a pretty steady climb back up to the helipad. And as I said on the way in, this section of track has been well graded, in really good condition, and generally it's a pretty easy drive. Nice and steep in sections though, for sure. I think give it, this reminds me of what Billy Goats used to be like sort of 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, just after it had been graded, which was one of the first times I drove it. It was like this, it was an easy drive. It's a little bit different to that now if you've been near Billy Goats Bluff track recently. So, you know, over time I think this could get back to being a difficult track, but at the moment it's in really good condition, and it's a nice easy drive with good traction in most conditions. I mean, clearly if you drive this when it's pouring down rain, it's going to be a whole different ball game. You can see here just how long these hills are. They're not super steep, they're steep, but really long, steady climbs. But yeah, as I was saying, so plan is Mt Wellington is our first stop, and then from there we're going to head up to the Pinnacles lookout, just back up here on the helipad. Loving that view. So head up and check out the Pinnacles. Again, we don't have high hopes for what we might see when we get to the Pinnacles lookout, but you know, you're not going to just drive past it and not have a look, are you? Gives you some idea there of what's ahead. So we've come over the helipad and just driving that ridge line before climbing up onto the next spur of the range there. So yeah, nice steady climb up, as you can see. So yeah, after the Pinnacles, the plan is to head across to the junction spur track and down probably the Castleburn track over that way. That's a track I've driven a few years ago. Didn't film it at the time, and was a lot of fun. So that's our plan for today. Spoiler alert, we don't quite get there. Anyway, you'll see what happens. But yeah, nice run up here on the Burgoyne's track on the east side. And yeah, look, that was a little bit of a lumpier section, but still nothing too difficult. This is the only really rocky section on this part of the Burgoyne's track. And again, I just put this first gear low range and let the car do the work, braking a little bit to keep my speed under control because the Pajero is not as low geared as some other four-wheel drives, particularly the Gen 4s post 2016 or 2018. I'm not sure exactly when they changed those diffs, but yeah, found that out after the fact. And then from there, this is pretty much the final descent back down onto Licola Road. Yeah, the last section is a pretty easy run. So if you wanted to get into the Morning Glory or Morningstar Hut, actually not sure what it's called, this would be the easiest way. And if you wanted to, as long as the river's passable, you could come down the western side of the Burgoynes because it's a lot easier going down than up, and then plan to exit this way. That would be fairly doable as long as the river's not up too high. So clearly from there, back on the bitumen, north to Licola. Here we are back at Licola, and turning on to the Tamboritha Rd to head up to Moroka Rd and Mt Wellington. So quite a nice scenic drive along here. If you haven't come in this way from Licola, definitely recommend it. You can see the work that's gone in to cut that road in with those cliffs there. And the early section does parallel the river quite a lot, and also in this early section there's a huge number of campgrounds and campsites, both on the river side and on the range side of this road. Again, you can see the size of the cutting there to cut this road in. But yeah, very popular camping spots along here. There's heaps of them. So even at peak time, I think you'd find a spot somewhere along here if you weren't too picky about which particular campground you got your campsite at. And it is really quite a scenic river, the Macallister River, to camp along as well. And as evidenced by this trip, pretty good fishing too, if you know what you're doing. So yeah, once we're back over 1,000 metres and off the bitumen, the fog closed in, we started getting spits of rain. You know, you'd think this was a different day or something. It just goes to show you how in the high country, what the weather's doing down low gives you almost no indication of what it's going to be like up higher. So wasn't too long and we're on the start of the Mt Wellington track. This first section is sort of an access track into the Mt Wellington track proper. And generally it's a pretty easy drive, and once again the track was in good condition, and at this point visibility was pretty good. It was a little bit wet. We did have some rain the night before, so track conditions were a little damp. And at this point we're still kind of hoping against hope that when we get up there we're actually going to have some sort of a view. You can see here we've got like a mini waterfall that's just formed running across the track here. The water's flowing out of springs further up the hill and literally making a waterfall across the track there. And for those of you that have been long time watchers of the channel, you'd remember this little river crossing from 18 months ago or so when I came here with Bruce on my first trip to Mt Wellington. Quite a nice little crossing. Wasn't deep then and not deep today, probably flowing a bit more today than last time I was here. And yeah, before not too long, we're at the start of the Mt Wellington track proper. There were some guys coming down, we just waited for them. You see the Iveco there with a interesting looking camper mounted on the tray on the back. That was pretty cool. They actually camped up last night. They did tell us visibility up there wasn't great, but it's not a long drive to the summit. The summit's about halfway through to the hut, so Miller's Hut does take you a little while to get all the way through to there, but if you're actually just going to the summit, it's about half the distance. It's kind of like Blue Rag doing the whole thing or just doing part of it. So yeah, that was our decision. We're here. It's only going to take us about half an hour, 40 minutes each way to get up there, so we figured why not have a crack and go and check it out. They said traction was pretty good even though the track was wet, and that's what we're finding here. You can see the cars aren't struggling or working too hard at all. There's a few soft wet spots, but generally speaking the traction was really good as we were working our way up. But you can see here, like the higher we're getting, the more of a whiteout the sky is kind of turning to, and we're starting to see that fog, mist, cloud, whatever you want to call it, sort of forming in the air and reducing visibility. So yeah, you can see here, nice wet, soft, muddy spot. Luke and I have both been up to Mt Wellington before, but Matt had not had the opportunity. And yeah, so we thought, well, he's never been up there, let's at least go up there and he can get a bit of an idea of what it's like. And as is always the case, we'll plan to come back another time when the weather is more conducive to enjoying it. You know, you're starting to get up a bit when you start to see the stunted snow gums. And yeah, as we're working our way up here, the fog's well and truly closed in. You really can't even see what's ahead of you without, you know, more than a few hundred meters at this point. And the higher we get, the worse that visibility sort of gets. So we had a fair idea that once we did actually get to the summit, we probably were going to struggle to see too much. Almost at the summit now, and yeah, as expected, the higher we've gotten, the worse the visibility's gotten. And it was really hard to tell at this point how close we were. As you can see from the text on screen there, this is the final approach, but look, at this point driving it, I wasn't even sure of that, and I have been here before. It's not a super steep climb up to the summit on Mt Wellington either, so it's a great track to do if you're looking for something scenic when the weather's better, and not too difficult either. I think the HEMA maps rank it as a medium track, and I think that's probably fair. Just had a look while I'm talking, and the early section is ranked as difficult. I'm really not sure why. Here we are actually up at the summit, so just on the left there you can see the rock cairn with the trig marker on top of it there. That's the actual trig point. And as you can see, other than the immediate ground around the summit, you can't see anything at all. Not the view you're really hoping for when you venture up to the summit of one of these mountains. And here comes Matt in his Prado, not too far behind me, and Luca in his GU. Lucky to see him. So we didn't stay up here for a very long time because, as you can see, there's not much to see. There's the actual trig marker. It's got a little plate on the top of it. And this is the view today. So I will grab some of my footage from my last time here just to show you what it looks like in good weather. But that's what it looks like today while we're here. And this is what it looked like last time I was here. Crystal clear on one side and fog closing in on the other. We're up at about 1,640 metres here. So yeah, very different, very different. So it is a really nice view from up there. Amazing colours in the rocks and the vegetation and the gravel as well. Just really quite scenic. So definitely recommend it, but not when the weather is like this. So yeah, quickly sort of turned around and headed our way back down. We were starting to get a little bit of light rain, so don't know if it was our imagination or not, but the track certainly seemed a bit wetter on the way back down than it did on the way up. And as you can see, Luca's not too far ahead there, and apart from the fact that the Prado's kind of blocking him, even when you sort of catch a glimpse of him, he's hard to see because of the fog. At these higher altitudes, the weather was well and truly closing in. Keep in mind, guys, this is like about 10:30 in the morning, so it's not late in the day at all. Not that you could tell. Yeah, even this section of track here just seemed a lot wetter than when we drove up. It was only sort of raining very, very lightly, but yeah, seemed to be just wetting the tracks down well and truly. And you can see there, a little bit slippery, a little bit of sideways action there on the Prado. And it wasn't too long before we were back into those switchbacks and working our way back down the mountain. Visibility was starting to improve again. We've only probably come down a couple of 100 metres, but you can see already the clouds sort of sitting up a bit higher, and at ground level where we are now, like you can see Luca's GU up ahead there, clear as crystal just about, even though he's several hundred metres sort of ahead of us. So it just goes to show you again, as I was saying, altitude makes a big difference to your experience of the weather. Back to this sort of soft and muddy section, which, admittedly it had a bit of traffic with us going up, but it just seemed a lot wetter and softer and muddier than when we drove up. Could be our imagination, but that's just how it seemed. And yeah, we're back at the start of the Mt Wellington track proper, and heading now back out to the Moroka Rd. So a little bit of footage here from Luca.
Jason up ahead from off the beaten path. Just came back from Mt Wellington. Jason from Off the Beaten Path was kindly enough to invite me out to one of his trips. YouTuber Off the Beaten Path, so great channel. Terrific week, terrific, I was going to say weekend, but it's actually during the week.
We're back down here and we've got blue sky.
Thanks for the plug there, Luca. Much appreciated, mate. It was a pleasure having you along on this trip. Looking forward to the next one. As you can see here, even the main Moroka Road wasn't in great condition, had been impacted by the recent rains. And to be fair, I guess Moroka Road gets a lot more traffic than probably the side tracks generally do. There's always been a few potholes, but there seemed like there was a lot more on various sections of Moroka Road. This is normally a two-wheel drive road, all the way up to the Pinnacles lookout. And yeah, it's about probably 20 k's or so from Mt Wellington track up to the Pinnacles car park. Obviously, it didn't include the entire road. You've probably all seen Moroka Road, so you get the idea. And just about there now, you can see we've got water all the way over the track here, and this intersection just up here is where the top end of Billy Goats Bluff track comes in. So if you come up Billy Goats Bluff to go to the Pinnacles lookout, you come in on that track and then do a hard left here, and from this point it's literally about 3 kilometres up to the car park. We're just about there now. On the right hand side there's a nice little camp spot. Last time I was up this way, Bruce and I camped in there. Again, long time watchers of the channel might remember that cracking little camp spot there, good level ground. And the Pinnacles car park is just up here. On that particular trip, we're really fortunate because when we went to the lookout the first time, it wasn't as bad as today, but the visibility wasn't great. And Bruce had never been here before. So we came down, set up our camp there, and just before tea, Bruce went for a quick run back up here. He's fit. Maybe I'd walk it, but Bruce ran it. I volunteered to look after camp, and he got some great footage and photos.
Well, here we are. We will see what we see, which is probably not going to be a lot today.
So yeah, done the short walk from the car park up to where the hut is, where the staff that man the fire tower during fire season actually live while they're stationed here. That's the fire tower up there, and you can see here, just looking across, the cloud just coming through and obscuring the visibility. It was kind of like at this point, like, is there really a lot of point in going up to that fire tower? And we decided, no, there probably wasn't. We've all been up there before. Some pretty cool rocks there on the side of the track. And yeah, we just headed back down the walking track, back to the vehicles, to head over towards the Junction Spur track. Now, last time I drove this, there was a track through here, and it's still showing on a lot of HEMA maps and topo maps as a track that connects through. So you come through this kind of campground area here, and it heads past the southeast Pinnacle and onto another track, and then joins onto the Junction Spur track. It seems that in the last couple of years, this is one of those tracks that has been quietly closed. As you can see there's a pretty decent dead tree and a couple of rocks that have been put there to sort of send the message, hey, this track is closed. So there is a way around this, which just takes a little bit longer. You just head back down the 3Ks to the intersection where Billy Goat's Bluff joins, and instead of turning towards Billy Goat's Bluff, you turn the other direction and take the Castle Hill track, which is what we've done, and that will take you up to the Junction Spur track, and from there we're going to head down to Crooked River track, and we had a lot of plans. A couple of kilometres in, we did find this little gem. Not 100% sure how this has been dug out, probably people coming up, but yeah, it's pretty steep, and kind of looking at it going, well, where's a good line? And rear departure angle is not a strong suit for the Pajero. Luca there just going to have a look for us. And yeah, not surprisingly, I just eased it up as slow as I could and just tried to gently ease it down, slow and steady. Yes, there it is, that Raslar bar earning its keep. Rear departure angle is just not a good thing on the Pajeros. It's just how it is. So you can imagine if I had the standard plastic on the back end of that, it'd be gone. Once again, that bar has just paid for itself.
Well, he got through, and he's graded the track for us.
Does look like that.
I still like that line better than any of the alternatives.
Oh, I'm taking that. I'm not coming down this one.
So just chatting to Matt about what line he's going to take in his Prado there, and he's going to follow the same line that I took. Now, Matt doesn't have a lift, but he does have airbag suspension in the rear, so he is able to put maximum amount of air into those airbags and lift it back up, and you'll see he actually enjoys a better departure angle than I do. Side steps there are taking a bit of a beating. Again, he doesn't have a lift, so he's sort of bellying out in the middle. His ramp over is not quite as good, but departure angle and the way his tow bar sits there, it sort of protects the rear plastic as well. But you can see it's just lightly made contact, not like my rear bar came down pretty hard. It's just lightly made contact, and he's driven straight through. Now maybe that's because I graded it wrong.
Bloody top job.
Difference. I just think with the airbags on the rear and the shorter distance behind the wheel, they've got a better departure angle, and that's all there is to it. So Luca and his GU decided to show us where the easy line was. Well,
what line
looks
is
easy.
What are you doing? Oh, he's going to make it look real interesting. I love it.
He's gonna roll.
It's going to tip. Right hand down, I reckon, Luca. Yep, straight.
And there you go, the big GU just makes its own track and makes it look very, very easy.
Made your own line, mate.
Top.
Bit of recalibration there on the side steps on the Prado.
Side step calibration. Ah! Like a
And with that obstacle surmounted, we were on our way. Looking forward to the Junction Spur track. Neither of the guys had ever done this one, and it was a few years ago that I did it, and it was good fun. Bit of a clay track from what I remember, and did tend to be a little slippery, and it wasn't this wet last time I drove it, so I was starting to think about what are we actually going to be in for here. But as you'll see, I wasn't going to get to find out. Yeah, we were starting to get a bit of rain spotting on the GoPro. Bit of a firm exit from that hump there, and the clouds were closing in again.
Watch it.
Just pulled up to jump on the radio and let the guys know that there's a decent sized dip on the other side of that little hump. Now, as you can see, we haven't been doing anything too crazy, haven't been spinning wheels, revving the motors, or driving like maniacs. At least I don't think we have. And my trip here is about to come to an end. Soon. So just come up over that hump, not particularly loose, generally good traction. Now if you listen to this on the headset, that audio might come through. There was a lot of noise and some shuddering coming through the drivetrain. It didn't fully lock up like last time I did a transfer case, for those of you that have been watching the channel for that long, but it wasn't good. Okay, here we are, Castleburn track. Conditions are pretty ordinary. Looks like I've done a front diff. Just climbing this little hill. Very similar symptoms to back when I did the transfer case, except all wheels didn't lock up this time. Yeah, just about to get moving. Just shuddering, and that from the front, I think it's the crown wheel slipping on the pinion. We're going to turn around and try and get out of here. So yeah, not the front diff, transfer case again. Only 30,000 Ks after I last had it replaced, and as you can see on the screen there, that hole wasn't cut in. The transfer case just bloody exploded. It did that to itself. So this time I had two-wheel drive. Last time when the transfer case failed, I had all-wheel drive, but I didn't have low or high range. This time I had two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive only. So was able to drive out of here, fortunately. So was a little bit tricky with the track being this wet. You certainly realise how much difference it makes having drive go to four wheels instead of two. And of course, the big thing we're thinking about is getting back up that little obstacle we just drove down. Fortunately, all the vehicles did have winches. So the plan at this point was to head back to Licola, reassess. The guys were pretty keen for me to call a towie and put the vehicle on a towie. Given I'd done this before, I was kind of like, you know what, it's driving. The diff or the transfer case, as it turned out, is probably screwed already. So while it's drivable, I'm going to probably drive it and either get as close to home as possible or get it all the way home. That was the plan. Yeah, that's what actually ended up happening. We got down to Licola, refueled, got some pretty strange looks from the guys at Licola as I rolled in. This thing was making a horrible noise by that point. From there headed to Mansfield and then back home to Albury. So yeah, here we are back at this little obstacle. So Luca's leading the way, and he's opted to sort of drive back up the line he drove down, and that's worked very nicely for him. Plenty of power in that thing. and he does have lockers front and rear.
I think we'll just...
You're going to get wet feet.
And that's me trying to make my way across there without getting too wet and muddy.
Are you thinking of taking the back line?
So 2-wheel drive only. I wasn't terribly optimistic, and I didn't want to hit this too hard because I didn't want to break anything else. At this point, I was still thinking it was the front diff, so just trying to nose it up there gently. Got sort of as far as we could in the 2-wheel drive and hooked up the winch to the back of Luca's GU. Now, already even at this point, because of how wet the surface was,
Watch Lucas.
I was starting to actually move the GU back towards me at different times. And yeah, those front wheels are doing nothing. And I probably have put a bit too much angle on the steering there. Again, normally when you've got some drive to the front, those front wheels would help pull it around onto a bit of a better angle. But of course, we had no drive to those wheels at this time. Now, we were getting pretty close to the patrol, and the patrol actually was starting to be pulled back towards me. So we decided to let the winch out and get Luca to move his car a little further away. Once again, it's off camera, but once again I was actually pulling his patrol back towards me more than I was pulling the Pajero up. So we did move his patrol out just a little bit further and tried to drop him into a little bit of a hole where he had a bit of a lip and re-winch from there.
Yep. No, Jason, you're not moving. Oh, there you go. No, not really moving at all. And Luca's coming back.
So, as you can hear there with Matt, he's filming and watching what's going on and letting us know. I'm kind of winching Luca towards me.
Luca, can we run your winch to a tree?
Rather than winching my vehicle up. So, the Padge is pretty heavy with all the mods I've got on it, and then it's got the driver sitting in there. That doesn't help with the weight situation either. So, yeah, we anchored Luca's patrol off to a tree. And that changed things, much more solid anchor point, and the winch was able to do its work and get us up there. So I guess, you know, that's the thing, like if you're winching and it's not working, look at what's not working and reset if you have to, which is exactly what we did here. We thought there'd be enough weight in the patrol and it'd be fine, and it proved to not be the case. So if it's not working, just reset and solve the problem. In this case, we anchored Luca's winch off to the tree, and yeah, problem solved. So we're pretty confident the Prado's going to have to winch. So Luca's gone down there to grab Matt's winch rope that's wrapped up on his front bar there, ready for him, and to grab that, ready to hook on. So we left the tree protector on the tree and had that winch point ready to go. Much better place to cross there, and Luke has got a good sensible pair of boots on as well. So Matt's not going to try that same line that Luca drove, and also it's been pretty messed up by me winching the Pajero up. So he's just going to come straight up and see where he can get it. And again, he doesn't want to break anything, so it's nice, slow and steady approach. And just managed to get the front up. But yes, without that lift, he probably just hasn't quite got the traction to get up and over, but he has got the front wheels up nicely, both of them nice and straight, so it's a really quick, easy winch from there. And again, we've already got one vehicle with some Moroka drivetrain, so we don't need another one. So yeah, just hooking Matt's winch rope up to the tree there and making sure it's spooling in nicely until he gets some tension on it. Yep, all good. So just moving back while Matt starts to winch in. And as you can see, the winch is doing its job nicely there, and he's moving up very quickly. Having the driving wheels on the front certainly helps as well. And that's it, we're done. Now, I didn't get a lot of footage past here. The GoPro batteries were flat, and really our focus was in getting home. So just quickly on this map here, the flag on the right hand side is about where the transfer case on the Pajero broke. The flag in the middle bottom of screen is Licola. So we went back down Moroka Rd and Tamboritha Rd to Licola. That probably took a couple of hours. I wasn't driving the Pajero over 60 kilometres an hour because I really didn't know what was broken and I just wanted to nurse it along. We refueled at Licola, and now keep in mind that the breakdown happened before lunchtime. So once we got past that obstacle, we just had some quick lunch on the track there. So it was just after lunch when we got to Licola. By the time we got through, we took the Jameson-Licola Road back to Mansfield, and Luca, even though he's from Melbourne, he came with us all the way to Mansfield just to make sure that we got out of the high country. So yeah, both the guys nursed along at 60 kilometres an hour with me, and look, the top section of the Jameson-Licola Road was in such bad condition. Sometimes we're only doing 15, 20 k's an hour anyway. It was so rocky and rough. So it was nearly tea time by the time we got to Mansfield. And then from there, Luca headed back to Melbourne. Matt and I continued back to Albury-Wodonga. The trip from Licola to Albury-Wodonga took about 7.5, 8 hours. So yeah, this was a weird thing that we saw on the Jameson-Licola Road. Somebody's put a bath there and it's got a hose and water going into it. It must be from watering horses or something. Anyway guys, thanks for watching as always. Like this video if you liked it. Any questions, leave a comment down below. See you in the next one.